We'll record. Excellent. So welcome to this time mastery workshop, and good that Ben made it on time. It's always good when people turn up late to these. So this is, as you know, Ben, you came to one a couple of months ago. So there's a series of 6 workshops we repeat every quarter, really looking at the fundamentals of what's needed to grow a business. So this one's all about time, and so I tend to call it self-mastery. We work on the finance side, marketing, sales, repeat business, customers, and team mastery. So those are the ones that sort of repeat themselves. So today is really about understanding why time management is so important and how we need to work at it ourselves. And what I've found over the years is everybody approaches time mastery different. So what works for you might not work for me. You've got to find your own way to actually achieve this. So what I'm going to cover is a number of tools. Some of them will definitely work. Some may work a little bit. Some just won't work at all. Okay. But the more you sort of get in your mind, I want to be in control of what I do rather than being at the beck and call of everybody else, the easier this becomes as you go forwards. You never get total control of it, but you learn how to deal with it and feel like you're more in control. And that's really what we're trying to achieve. So is there something, is there a particular challenge you have, Ben, or something that you feel that the organization has that you want to make sure that I actually cover today?
I mean, yeah, so we basically, as an accountancy firm, we have a lot of deadlines which we have to kind of work to. So for us, one of our main probably challenges as a firm is just to make sure that we're kind of dealing with short-term deadlines, which is kind of, let's say, payroll, which is done every month. And you have VAT returns every quarter, and then you have accounts every year. So it's really just kind of building the workload in so that people are kind of using their time wisely, so that they're meeting every deadline as we go and not putting things off. And then at the last minute realizing, oh God, I've got a VAT return I've now got to process tomorrow, Yeah, that's kind of one of the main ones.
So it's the short-term goals, and obviously, and I would guess that you're quite busy, so there's always in effect more work to do than you've got time to actually do it. And that is the big thing for anyone in business, is when you sit down and think about your work life, your home life, families, friends, health, fitness. If you looked at all of those things and said, actually, there just aren't enough hours in the day to get everything done. So for me, time management is not a case of focusing on what you can do. It's actually focusing on what you can't do. And one of the biggest time management tips is just say no. There's got to be a point where you just go, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't have time to do it, in a nice way. But what happens is because you're a service-based business and we're nice people, we don't like to let people down. So we say, I'll do that. I'll try to do that. I'll get around to doing that. So it just goes on our list, which gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we're just juggling one thing to another thing. And we know that we're going to let somebody down, but the person we really let down is ourselves, because we're the one that's working till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, working weekends, getting up early, trying to keep everybody happy. Whereas if we just said at the outset, look, I just haven't got the bandwidth to do this, then at least people would know. Therefore, you let them down once rather than many times, because you keep over promising and under delivering. So you remember this little formula from our previous workshop. I do it every workshop because it is fundamentally important. Who do I need to be? So that's my internal beliefs, my thoughts, my actions. What do I need to do, and what do I want to have? Okay, so if you remember from before, the most important is my dreams and goals. So have I really got clarity what I want to achieve? Do I have the knowledge, attitude, and skills to be able to achieve that? And am I actually doing the right thing? So when we come to time management, it's no different to sales marketing. When I said about the marketing, it's about having a clear goal of what you want from your marketing. What clear goal do you want from your sales? When it comes to time management, it's being clear, what does success look like from a time management point of view? Because if you don't understand that, if you haven't set that, then what will happen is you'll just do what it takes to get things done. So you'll never say no because, well, yeah, I'm quite happy to work 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And the more you do that, the more your brain gets, it's a bit like working a muscle. You've worked the muscle. I've been working 60, 70 hours a week. So the muscle is 60, 70 hours a week is normal. So when you actually work 30, 40 hours, it feels odd. And I get this a lot with entrepreneurs, business owners, senior managers, is they become workaholics. Is when they're not working, they feel uncomfortable. And there's that sort of, we call it the entrepreneur's guilt. When I don't have any work to do, I feel guilty. I spent so many years working hard, and I haven't got any work. Well, what do I do with my time? And it becomes a big problem with, if you are trying to cut back and sort of, because you don't have a personal life, you haven't had the experience of spending time with your family, doing the sports. So I had one client many years ago, and we got him out of his business. We delegated all the work, and he had good people doing the work for him. And we actually got him to just stay at home. And within about 2 weeks, he was bored silly and basically found a way to come back into the business, undermined all the people he put in there to run the business for him. They all left, and he was left back holding the baby again. Yeah. Because he hadn't built his identity outside of the business. So we have to understand that habits are a big part to this. So we've got to question and always be looking self-awareness, hold the mirror up and look in the mirror and go, okay, am I happy with the level of input? Am I happy with my time management? If I'm not, great. What does success look like? And that's why goals are so important. Goals in life, in every aspect, because if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. You'll just naturally just come to work, get on the roller coaster, start working, and 60 hours later, you're still there. And you would have had days and weeks like that where you feel, I've been really, really busy. I came in at 8, I went home at 6 o'clock. I just don't feel like I've achieved anything. Okay. Yeah. But if I ask you that at the beginning of that day, did you sit down and set a goal for that day? Did you actually say, right, this is the one thing I need to get done today? Yeah. And if I get that done, then today is a success. And most people don't. They just start the day with the same crap they had yesterday. And therefore they just keep going. It's like walking in quicksand. The faster you walk, the deeper you go into it. So we've got to have this awareness and understand that we have to set our goals, okay, to really be looking at the goals of ourselves. But when it comes to a business, we need to understand the goals of the business. And to me, everybody in the organization needs to understand where the business is going. Okay, because if as an employee of the business, if I don't know what the goal of the business is, well, how do I know what my part of that is? How do I know what success looks like if I don't know where the company's going, if I don't know where the department's going, my piece of the puzzle, what that is. So a writer quite a few years ago now, a guy called Jim Collins, wrote a brilliant book called Good to Great. And he basically looked at all the great companies, and the definition of a great company was one that had been growing every single year for more than 40 years. Okay, and that actually narrowed it down to only about 100 and had been profitable every single year. Okay, so it was a very small selection of businesses that fitted that model. He then looked and said, what are the common traits of these businesses? And he found that all of the businesses that he came across were built on a solid foundation of values. Everybody in the organization understood those values. They lived those values. When they didn't, they either left or they were brought back in line to those values. So those values of the company last forever. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know when it's a value, because when somebody goes against a value, it pisses you off. You know, if you've got a value of hard work and somebody's sitting there with their feet up, twiddling their thumbs, it pisses you off.
Yeah.
Okay? So sometimes it's that negative that drives the positive value, but you're always looking for, you know, the positive, what it should be. Once we know what our values are, then the company must have a purpose. Why does it exist? And that, in his sort of book, was generally sort of something about 20 to 30 years. It's generally the life of the leader. So the leader sets the purpose. Okay, so the founder of Sony set a purpose to change the way people perceive shoddy Japanese goods. You know, Steve Jobs' purpose was put a ding in the universe. Elon Musk's purpose is to put a man on Mars.
Yeah.
Okay. Now they hope to do it in their lifetime, but there's a clear direction of why we're here, and that you don't ever really achieve that goal. You know, it could be a lifetime's pursuit to actually move towards that. But as a company, you know, that gives us that impetus that the company is going somewhere, irrespective of who's on board. You know, the company has a direction it's going to. Once we know where the company's going, then we need to get a little bit closer and start setting our targets. You know, and I would call these our financial goals. So what does this business look like on a numbers basis in 3-5 years time? You know, what's our turnover? What's our gross profit? What's our net profit? How many sites have we got? How many employees are we employing? Are we still in the same market that we're in now? Have we expanded our range? So that the leader needs to set that clarity now that we've got some goals and targets to aim for. And these are now becoming much smarter. I'll talk about smart goals later. Once we've got a target, we then need a goal. So that would be your 12 months financial target, you know, financial goal. So now it's getting a lot clearer, probably broken down into products and services, so that we really know what does winning look like over the next 12 months. Once we've got that, we then have our actions. So what do we need to do on a quarterly basis to achieve those goals? Then we break that down to our weekly schedule. So what do I need to do this week? And then you have daily accountability. Now, either that's going to be self-accountability, so I keep myself accountable to achieve the things I need to do today, or if you're dealing with lower management people, then it's daily accountability. So it's third party. So I need to check up on you every single day to make sure, have you done what you said you're going to do?
Yeah.
Now, push that too far and that becomes micromanaging, and no one really likes micromanaging. So what we want people to do is to take ownership and be a little bit more round here. Yeah. Because down here, if it's a bit like sort of, you know, if you're a 4-year-old child, you know, your parents need to check up on you on a very regular basis. Yeah. As you grow, that input should be less and less and less. Okay. I cover this a lot more in managing people in the team mastery workshop. So,
yeah. I suppose what you're trying to say is it's also a bad use of the manager's time to have to constantly be worrying about, it's about, you know, there's better things to be doing.
Yeah, it's far better, you know, and that's why, you know, the good thing about children is they grow up.
Yeah.
The bad thing about children is they grow up.
Yeah.
So, you know, but if they didn't grow up, it would just be really, really hard work, you know, constantly monitoring. And to be honest, you grow, you know, as you grow older, you regress, you know, you go back, and that's why dementia is such a terrible disease, because, you know, you lose your ability to set longer term goals and plans and keep yourself accountable. You forget where you are. Okay? So when we actually, you know, we come to this, and the why goals are so important, there's a little part of our brain which sort of sits in here called the reticular activating system. We shorten it to the RAS, okay, setting your RAS on something. Now, this part of your brain is a filter, okay, because it sits just above the spinal column. So all of your senses, what you see, what you taste, what you smell, what you touch, what you hear, comes into your brain through this point, and this filter needs to filter out the bits that are not relevant. Because if you can imagine, if all of your senses were sending information into your brain, on a constant basis, you would go doolally. And I think I can't prove this, but I'm sure there'll be some studies at some point that autistic people, I think there's an element of this RAS not working properly, so they're oversensitive to certain things, oversensitive to noise, to light, because the brain can't filter out these things. So it's like their brain is bombarded with all this information that it just can't digest, it can't cope with. So to give you a bit of an idea of how clever this part of the brain is, what I want you to do is in a second, I want you to look around the room, okay, the room you're in now, and count the number of blue things that you see. Okay, so have a quick look around, tot up how many blue things you see.
Yep.
Okay, so back looking at the screen. No cheating. So how many blue things did you see?
6.
6 blue things. Okay, keep looking at the screen. How many red things did you see?
I have no idea.
You've no idea. But you saw the red things.
Yeah.
You can't not see them because they were there. But I programmed your reticular activating system and set you a goal just to look for blue things. Therefore, you ignored all the red things. And that's why goal setting is so important, because if you don't set a goal, how does your reticular activating system know what to allow in and what to ignore? It'll either ignore the things you need, or it'll see things that aren't going to help you actually achieve what you want to achieve.
Makes sense.
Okay, so that's why we have to set goals as on a company level, on an individual level. We've got to make sure our team know what their goal is, and if they're clear what their goal is, right, I've got to achieve this one thing today. And I repeat that first thing in the morning. Guess what? That one thing's probably going to get done. If you go into the day without clarity of that, then your reticular activating system is, oh, nice, shiny, bright thing. Oh, there's phones running. Oh, a customer's coming. Oh, somebody wants this. How are you going to say no to anything if you've not set what is important to you? And when it comes to goals, there are 3 types of goals that our brains are attuned to pick up on. The first is an away from pain goal. Okay, so what is it that you don't want? What don't you like?
In our industry, I guess you wouldn't want to annoy clients. You wouldn't want to have clients leave or clients come in and kicking off about something because we haven't done it in time.
Okay, so away from goals are, we don't have to think too much about them. Okay, it's part of our brain called the reptilian brain. So we share it with all animals, and it's our fight, flight, freeze. Okay, so it's there to keep us alive. So we used to be sort of hunter-gatherers. There's be a rustle in the woods, and we're programmed to actually go, oh, there's a rustle in the woods. What is it? Right, I need to do something about it. It's involuntary. You can't help but react to something. My wife was having a riding lesson, and the instructor, there was a cat that was walking across the or in the undergrowth making a noise, and she noticed it and looked at it, and the instructor said, "Don't look at it. It's putting you off." You can't not look at it, because you hear a noise, you have to look at the noise. You don't say, "Oh, should I look at this noise?" No, it's an involuntary reaction. So when it comes to great example there of clients, as soon as a client is on the phone, you overhear a client kicking off, that part of the brain will kick in. Right, I don't want to lose a client, therefore I'll do whatever it takes. It wasn't planned, it wasn't structured, it was just an involuntary reaction. So moving away from pain is very good at getting you motivated and to do something quickly. If I said to you, Ben, if you don't get that set of papers done by 4 o'clock tonight, you're going to be sacked. Oh shit! Okay. It's relatively easy, but if you don't control it, you start working towards other people's goals or minor goals and things that are just, say, reactive. The next level of brain function that humans have beyond basic animals is we call it a limbic system, our mammalian brain. And this part of our brain is actually built around pleasure. It's what we want. It's what makes us feel good. It's our emotional. So do I feel good? Do I feel bad? If I feel good, then I want more good things. So there's a vision of what life will be like, when I've actually moved towards something. So these, if you can imagine a move away from goal and a vision goal, which one of those is more difficult to actually ascertain?
Well, I guess moving towards a goal would be easier to do than to try and move away from one. Because if someone calls up and you're on the phone and they're on the phone kicking off, you kind of, again, your brain's just like, I have to deal with that now. And you kind of just put the pleasure side out of the way and you think, well, I guess I just have to do it.
So yes, so the move away will always overpower.
Yeah.
Okay, so it will always win. If I've got a pleasure goal and a pain goal, the pain goal will always overpower the pleasure goal. Yeah, but which one? So therefore, the pleasure goal is more difficult to maintain. It's more difficult to actually set, because how often do you actually sit down and go, do you know what? This is what I want for my life.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and certainly the older you get, because everything you've got right now, the car you drive, the house you live in, I would hope the partner that you've got, the kids, whatever it is, at some point, those were a vision goal. They weren't a move away from goal, unless you had an extremely bad partner and got a better partner, but I'd hope that there was more vision there. So these are move towards goals, but once you've achieved them, then you tend to sort of say, oh, right, great, that's great. I'm now in my comfort zone. What we don't then do is set another goal. So what can happen is we go into our comfort zone and then become reactive again, because we're not moving forwards. That reptilian brain kicks in and starts reacting to dangers around me. Well, what if I lose my wife? What if the kids do this? What if this? And that's when a lot of stress kicks in, is the worry of losing what we've got, because that's a fear base, and that kicks our reptilian brain. That's the T-Rex sitting in the jungle, rather than the vision brain of something nice that we're actually moving towards.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So vision and setting positive goals takes more effort. And when we get them, we have to then set another goal and another goal and another goal, because they run out. Move away from goals never run out. There's always something to be scared of. Okay, and if we don't have the vision ones, then the negative fear goals kick in. But there does come a time where all of your goals have been achieved. And you are in that comfort zone, and you get to a point where setting things for myself, another car, another boat, another plane, another holiday, they don't motivate you as much as they used to. So human beings have got this third level of brain function, which is called the neocortex. So this is our human brain, our thinking brain, has an ability to remember the past and learn from what we've done, but also project into the future. So this is where our long-term thinking comes in. Limbic system is still short-term. That's why the people eat donuts, and smoke cigarettes, because what they want is that feeling of what the donut and the cigarette give them. What they forget about is the long-term detriment to their health. So this is even harder now. If limbic system, having that donut, having that cigarette, having that extra drink, compared to the long-term effects, what would happen to me in 20 years' time if I keep on this? That's really difficult. This part of the brain is really powerful, because it really does drive you forwards. And a lot of this is driven from not about us anymore, it's about other people. So why are we building this business? Are we building it to have a better lifestyle ourselves? Yes. But actually, what if we built it so we help more customers, more clients? Why have we built it so we employed more people and gave them a fantastic place to work? What if we did it to help the community, the charities? What if we did that? And that's why the likes of Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Elon Musk are doing what they do, not because they want to earn more money and it makes them feel good. They're doing it because of a purpose, a bigger purpose, a 20-year purpose. They're doing it for other people. Yes, they get the benefit of it because helping other people makes you feel good, because we go back to that limbic system again, but they're setting goals that are beyond themselves. Now, for most of us, we're just in that transition from move away goals to move towards goals. But people who have got pretty much whatever they want and sitting there, I'm happy with my life. Yeah, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have a goal, but the goal will be an external, other people goal rather than an internal goal.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 3 levels of brain function. The reticular activating system, which is the filter. So we have to set, are we moving away from? Are we moving towards? Are we doing a goal for other people? Doesn't matter which one it is. Yeah, as long as we're committed to actually achieving that and it means something to us. And you've probably heard of SMART goals over the years.
Yeah.
Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic in a time frame. I change it to SMARTY goals. The old Smarties. Smarties have the answer. You're probably too young to remember that. Because SMART is very what we call left brain, logical, specific, logical, measurable, logical, achievable, logical, realistic, logical, time bound, logical. Yeah. And that's because most people have dreams, which are emotional. I want to have a life that makes me feel like this. It's an emotional reason why I do it. So SMART goals were brought in to turn an emotional dream into a logical dream. So we're using both sides of the brain, the logical side of our brain and the emotional side of our brain. Okay. But what can happen is you can become too logical, and your goals become dull, boring, uninspiring. And certainly in your line of work, I've got to get this VAT return by Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How inspiring and emotional is
that, is it?
It's freaking not, is it?
Yeah.
If the pain was enough, if I'm going to get fined or I'm going to, get sacked or, I'm going to let the client down, then okay, we'll do it. So if we get those sorts of goals, what we want to be able to do is then put an inspiring and emotional goal attachment to it. So when I get that VAT return by Friday, if I get it done at 4 o'clock, I'm going home and I'm going to open a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the kids down. I'm going to finish it at 4 o'clock and I'm going to take the kids swimming. Okay. Not I get the VAT return done at 4 o'clock and I'll just do another couple of things and suddenly 8 o'clock on a Friday night, I'm still at work.
Yeah.
No. Because you've not given yourself any reward for the work you've actually done. There is no finite, right, I've achieved something, I've got a goal. And think back to prehistoric days where you'd go out, with your spear down, catch some food. The reward for catching the food is you and the family get to eat. And you survive another day. That's fantastic. So your brain gives you this hit of endorphins, this natural chemical high that makes, today was a good day. I hunted, I gathered, the family ate, the family loved me, everything is good in the world. They didn't go down, catch the wild boar and then go, you know what, I'll just stay and do a little bit of, mooching around a bit longer.
Yeah.
Because the endorphin that you would have got will suddenly disappear and then the people that did that basically died out. That race of people who didn't come back straight after they killed something died because their brain said, I can't be asked to get up in the morning, didn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people are in work, is they're going through the motions because they have to, because it pays the bills, but they're not engaged with the work that they're actually doing. And there's a big talk about employee engagement at the moment. Again, I do a lot more of that within the team mastery workshop.
Okay.
So we have to set our goals. Okay. And if you're a business owner, if you're a manager, anybody that's having to work on the business as opposed to working in it. And the in is the doing work that pays the bills.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else should be working on it. So you have to set how much time you should be working on the business as opposed to working in it. Now, the higher up the organizational structure you are, the more on, the less in. So Richard Branson, how much of a time does he spend working in the business versus working on the business?
No, probably hardly anything at all.
Nothing in.
Yeah.
The whole Virgin Empire works without him.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah? He's working on the business, on the next strategy, on the next thing. Okay. When you start your business, you have to work 99.9% in it because it's just you. So we've got to, but that will change as the business grows, and you've got to make that conscious decision. Right, my goal for working on the business this year, by the end of the year, by the end of the quarter, by the end of the week. Because if you don't set that goal, then you'll just go through the process of doing work. What's your goal for time for family? When are you actually going to do this? Now, there's this sort of feeling of, oh, well, I can't be spontaneous. If you're in business, you can't be spontaneous. You have to plan spontaneity.
Yeah.
On Wednesday at 4:00, I'm going to be spontaneous. Not when I have
my
time
to be
off.
Spontaneous.
Exactly. It's what I'm actually going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a much easier thing to be spontaneous about. Right, at 4:00, I'm going to do something exciting rather than working out when. Because what I said at the beginning, there's always more to be done than can ever be done.
Yeah.
And there's a great book by a lady. She was a palliative care nurse, and she, was end of life for hundreds and hundreds of people. And she wrote her, all the things that these people sort of said about how they wish their life were better, and what they wish they hadn't done. She made notes of, and then she put it into a book and found there were 5 common themes. One of those was, I wish I hadn't taken work so seriously.
Right.
So no one sits on their deathbed and go, do you know what? I should have done more VAT returns.
Yeah.
So,
if you did, it'd be a pretty sad life, I guess.
It would be a very sad life. It would be a very sad life. So, so you've got to make time for the family, time for yourself, for sport, for education, time for learning. You've got to plan this time to actually sort of, to set goals for each of these areas. And I would do this as a family, together personally, once a year. What does this year look like? Once a quarter, once a month, once a week, and every day.
Yeah.
Right? What does success look like today? We don't say that enough to ourselves. We just get up in the morning, go to work, and then the day happens.
Yeah. Unfortunately, then that turns into the week happens, the month happens, the year happens,
and the life happens. I've coached and been with people. I had one guy who was a multi-millionaire. He was in his where was he? He was probably late 30s, early 40s. He'd worked 20 years building this business up. He had more money. He couldn't spend the money he was earning, and he was working 60, 70 hours a week. 7 days a week.
Yeah. What's the point at that point, isn't it?
And he said, and he came to me and said, look, and he was the workaholic. He didn't know. He wanted to stop, but he couldn't stop.
Yeah.
The business, it can't survive without me. And he'd never had more than a week's holiday in 20 years.
Yeah.
And he was earning millions.
I
went, you're an idiot. What if you drop dead tomorrow?
Yeah.
So it took us about 9 months, but in the end, we managed to do the things I'm going to go on to in a minute and actually create an environment where he could actually go. He went on a sort of it wasn't around the world, but it was a 3-week cruise. And 3 weeks away, and realized actually I can be away from the business.
Yeah.
And also you not only can be, but you have to be, because you need, the further up the tree, as you said, working on the business needs you to think. Working in the business requires you to do.
Yeah.
Now you need both of them, but the bigger the business, the more people you have to do the do, but you can't employ people to do the thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you need to bring to the game. So once we've got clarity around the goals, then we can work on our beliefs. What we believe to be true. Yeah, and our beliefs often are the things that hold us back. So the first belief is, business is not busyness. Yeah, some of the most successful people I've seen, you would probably put down as being lazy. I was out playing golf with a group of business people. I'm in Spain at the moment, and there's a group, and we meet up, and one of the guys had played golf 3 times this week.
Right. Yeah.
He's not busy, but when he works, he's focused, and he achieves a hell of a lot in the time he actually works. So a lot of people, in their business think that, the faster you pedal, the more you get out. I think the older you get, you realize that's not true. It's work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
It's understanding what the measurement is within the business. And that's what I deal with in the finance mastery, is if you understand what the measures are, then your job is to be as the most efficient, the least amount in for the maximum amount out. And that's really how, in your trade, accountancy firms work. The further up you come to partner level, manager level, your output is more about the team that you create around you than it is what you actually put out yourself. I coached a very successful partner in a firm, and in the end, he was working probably, he went in 1 day a week over a course of a week. And he was billing over £1 million.
Yeah. Because he built that team and the structure and everything.
Yeah, he kept on saying, I bill £1 million. I said, no, you don't bill £1 million. Your team bill £1 million.
Yeah,
and you manage your team. I said, it's a bloody good job.
Yeah.
But they were his clients, but he'd created a structure around him that meant he could work 1 day a week.
Yeah. It's kind of the goal for anyone, really, isn't it? For a lot of people.
It's a goal.
Yeah.
The big thing is, I said, no one sits on their deathbed going, do you know what, I wish I'd worked harder.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, unless you were electrocuted while sleeping at your desk or something like that. I think you know what I mean. So the other thing is to understand, look, your time is more important than money. If you lose money, you've got time to get it back. If you lose time, no amount of money will ever get it back. And I had this issue with my father. Gave up a really good job, bought a business. I had a great childhood. I remember sort of, him coming home at 5 o'clock, had good holidays, and then he had this business and he didn't come home until 7, 8 o'clock. He worked weekends. He was stressed. So the time, that I had with him, during my teenage years was next to nothing. And he was, oh yeah, but I'm doing it for the family, and I'm doing it for the money. And as a kid, it didn't mean anything. What I wanted was my dad, not an inheritance when he died.
Yeah,
I'd like both, really, but I think, but I do look back, and we lost a lot of years where he was dedicated on working at the expense of family.
Yeah. I hear it all the time, don't you? It's such a common thing,
It's a big thing with business people. If you've got a job, you generally, you work 9 till 5, but if you go to America, their work ethic is horrendous. Japan, it's terrible. There's a feeling if I go home on time, I'm letting everyone down. Why? It's not about the time you spend doing something, it's about the output you get from the time you put in. If I can get my job done in 2 hours a week, fine. Why would I want to spend another 38 hours just sitting at my desk? So also creating an environment, and I always have this argument with an accountant friend of mine, and he says, look, I came from a accountancy background where we billed for every 15 minutes, and I hated it. So my firm, we don't keep track of time. We don't keep track. We don't bill by the hour. Everyone's on fixed rate. I said, that's fantastic. But how efficient are you? How do you know how well you're doing? So when people say, oh, I'm busy, great, well, we'll get another person. Yeah, but is that the right thing? Unless you keep track of your time, unless you measure it, how do you know that it's being effective?
So we found that, just on the counterpoint to that, when we used to have timesheets in our firm, that people were so worried about keeping track of all of their time that they'd spend, half an hour a day trying to figure out what they'd done because they'd not made note of everything. So they're going through so you're basically losing half an hour every day of people just trying to figure out what to put on their timesheet.
Yeah.
So so it is a tough one to try and figure out.
But it comes back to, I mean, you play golf, don't you?
No, I've not played.
You don't play golf. Do you play any sports?
Yeah, I play rugby.
Play rugby, okay. So if you played rugby without keeping the score, what would the game be like?
Yeah. I mean, there's not really much point then, is there? It's just, yeah.
No. And do I have to check on you every 15 minutes to make sure you know the score?
No.
You know the score because you're playing the game and the score is part of the game.
Yeah.
Your game is a time for money game. Okay. So the difference is your guys are not using the score to play the game. They're doing the score because if they don't do the score, someone's going to tell them off.
Yeah.
So which part of the brain are they activating? Their limbic system move towards pleasure, or their reptilian brain move away from pain?
Yeah, so it's the reptilian side, yeah.
And that's what big corporates have done. They're doing the right thing, but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Position it that if you don't do your timesheet, we're going to beat you up.
Yeah.
Rather than say, look, this is your timesheet. You own your time.
Yeah.
These are your hours. This is what you need to bill. This is what success looks like. And this is a way you can keep track of that.
Yeah.
Again, it's about beliefs. If people believe they're doing a timesheet for somebody else, it's a pain in the arse. They'll take half an hour. They won't understand. If they believe they're doing it for themselves, they'll take ownership of it and be all over it.
Yeah. I suppose it's how you put it across to them, isn't it? As you say. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it's the timing is a score system, or it should be they should see it as a score system. That's why I say golf. That when you go out and play golf, it's not a chore to keep. But you may record it and not like it.
Yeah.
Shit, I worked 60 hours this week and I only billed 20 hours. That's crap.
Yeah.
Fine. So what are you going to do about it? What went wrong? What do you need to do next week?
Yeah.
That's why you do it, not to account for the 15 minutes. Oh shit, there's 15 minutes I can't account for. What do I do? Oh no.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. I suppose again, it's also about how you do the timesheet. So as long as you if you said to them, look, put your billing time down and anything else, admin, whatever, they're not then having to literally sit there and count out their 15 minutes of when they've got up and made a coffee or something. They've just spent 2 hours on this job, an hour on this job, an hour on that job, and the rest of it was just emails, admin, etc.
What's the game? What does success? What does get to the end of the week? What does a good timesheet look like?
Yeah, if you said, look, if you were clocking up X amount of hours as work hours throughout the week, we're happy, and that's it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I always think utilization is a key number in any professional service business. My goal is always 80% utilization.
Yeah,
if I can get 80% chargeable work out of you, I'm happy. Push it to 90%, ecstatic. 100%, you're probably going to burn out.
Yeah, or you're lying.
I mean, and that's what drove. You're probably too young, but I think in the 80s, 90s, KPMG, they were so fixated on this utilization, they were billing 110, 120%.
Right. Yeah.
Again, you're playing the game to the wrong score. You misfocus what the game is.
Yeah.
Great. It was great for billing, and the headline figures are great, but the client relationship was awful.
Yeah. It's that happy medium, I guess, isn't it?
I wouldn't say it's a happy medium. It's being clear what the goal is and what the purpose is. Our purpose is to give our clients the best service, the best value for money. Well, if that's our purpose, then why would we bill them 120% of our time? We wouldn't.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So that's why values and purpose are so important to have, because everything drives from that.
Okay.
So unless you respect your time, don't expect other people to respect it for you. And this comes back to that saying no.
Yeah.
If you respect your time, you will say no more than you say yes.
We find that a lot with how our business has grown to a point now where if the phone calls, rather than being like our initial answer was, yeah, we'll answer the phone straight away, and like a manager or director will speak to you straight away. Now it's no, we'll take a message and we'll call you back within X amount of hours, kind of thing. Because we're not just sat around waiting for a phone call, you know. So
that's it. You know, and also getting things done. You know, great. You know, what's a good turnaround? 24 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so nothing gets done today that comes in today. Gets done tomorrow. Gets planned. Okay, so you don't do it today. You plan it in for tomorrow, or if it can wait, for next week. But most of us are living off reptilian brain. Oh, if I don't do this now, the customers ask for it. I must get it done. Therefore, I'll stop everything else because they haven't shouted, and I'll do that thing, and then everything's behind, and it just becomes a right old mess.
So we had the issue again with that situation where it then basically became whoever shouted the loudest, and the clients would learn that. They'd learn if they kicked off, they'd get it done. So it's like almost giving a dog a treat for doing something bad. They're just going to keep doing it, and that's what it got to in the end. So that's why we had to change our whole way of doing things, basically. So.
And that is the big thing, and you see this in all sorts of industries, and certainly paying people, he who shouts loudest gets paid first.
Yeah.
Why? It's just like, if everyone paid everybody on time, none of us would have any problems.
Yeah. 100%.
So,
I suppose that's just something you learn as you go through, isn't it, though, in business?
I wish more people learned it, but unfortunately, you might want to live by those values, but if your industry doesn't live by those values, like the construction industry is atrocious. Everybody thinks they can, 30 days credit means 90 days.
Yeah.
We used to have it. I used to work as FD of a company that supplies the supermarkets, and they got to a point where, you're on 30 days credit and they were taking 90, and they had to bring in legislation to stop that practice, because you can't turn around to Tesco's and say, no, if you don't supply me, don't pay me in 30 days, I'm going to stop supplying.
You
can't do it.
They're not going to be threatened by that, so they'll just
no, but there was enough pressure on them to actually say, look, there's an ethical side, corporate social responsibility. If you kill off all of your suppliers, then eventually you don't have any suppliers, and that's what happened. They started losing key suppliers, and then, oh shit, perhaps we need to change this again. Values, live to some good values.
That makes sense.
So there's two types of people that are around. And when we come to time management, you'll see this a lot. There's people that will sit and blame, make excuses, and deny. Oh, I didn't get this done because. What we want to have is for ourselves, but the team around us, is take ownership, be accountable, responsible. Okay, so if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So that's really, really, really important with this, is that ownership of my time, holding myself accountable, that's why my clients work with me, because it's hard to hold yourself accountable. I'm going to get this done by Thursday next week. Friday comes, oh shit, I knew I was going to do that. But they know they're going to talk to me, at 2:00 on a Thursday, have you done that? And it's amazing that third-party accountability gets your brain to say, people will let themselves down, but they won't let somebody else down. Especially somebody who they've paid to hold them accountable. When I was writing my book, I knew that I needed accountability, so I paid somebody to basically say, I'm going to be the easiest client you've ever had. I'm going to phone you up at 8:00 every Tuesday, and I'm going to tell you what I've done and what I'm going to do. And
So
that was
you're
it.
then pushing yourself to make progress every week.
It was in my head. I knew I had to make that call at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday and tell my coach that I'd either achieved it or I hadn't achieved it. And I wouldn't phone up and say I didn't do it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Now, some people do. Yeah. Oh, yeah, but, I can't make the call today because, something came up last week, and I've had clients like that over the years, but that's because I go back to the power of the goal. If you don't want the goal, you won't do the work. If you want the goal, you'll do the work.
Like
and a lot of people say they want things, but when it push comes to shove, they're actually quite comfortable where they are, so they don't do it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we want to change this behavior, then the first thing we need to look at is the environment. Okay. So think about your behavior as human beings are like an iceberg. What I see your behavior. So if you were in my office and I saw Ben, who wasn't coping too well with time management, I'd be seeing the tip of the iceberg, the behavior on the surface. In order to change that iceberg, that shape of that iceberg, the first thing that we look at is the environment, because the water in which the iceberg sits has the biggest impact on that iceberg. So I would look at you and go, right, okay, so you're struggling to get everything done. You're in a bit of chaos. Let's look at the environment in which you're working. Is that causing it? And one of the biggest impacts on this, in my mind, is open plan offices.
Okay.
Yeah, I personally think they should be banned because, if you're in an open plan office, there's so much going on that how the hell can you actually focus on one thing?
Yeah. All the distractions, I guess, isn't it?
All the distractions, The other things are, what's on your computer? Have you got email that pings every 5 minutes? Have you got WhatsApp that's open that comes in? Have you got Facebook open in a browser? Have you got an RSS feed for the news that comes in? Have you got all of these things that are vying for your attention? And don't forget, that reptilian brain, is constantly looking out for things that are going to kill it, or the limbic system is constantly looking out for donuts.
Yeah.
Oh, nice shiny bright thing. Oh, there we go.
The amount of times you're working on something and suddenly an email pings up and it's a client saying they're moaning about something, or it says urgent on it, and you're like, oh, I just have to click that and look at it, and that's half an hour then of you like that's the job gone basically that you were trying to.
And all marketers, they call it clickbait. They're sending out bait so that you click. Yeah. So the world is against you with this. So the first thing you do, and the easiest thing to do, is look at the environment and say, right, what do we need to change? If you are in an open plan office, is there an empty office where people can go and just have an hour's quiet time? Do you work from home? Is that a better place? What do you need to do to take ownership of your environment and say, right, I've got to cut out the noise that's actually taking my attention away from the task at hand.
That's what Nick does, the director who's meant to be joining. He works from home 2 days a week, and I'm sure he's told me before he does more work at home than he ever does in the office. He's not got the staff distractions, basically.
But don't forget what I said at the start. What works for one won't work for another. Another person can't do that because the kids are at home. They don't have the right working environment. So we have to look at everyone individually, but understand the environment has a massive impact on behavior. Change the environment, change the behavior. And it is relatively cost-effective, simple way to actually achieve that. If the environment is fine, there's nothing wrong with the environment. The next thing we need to ask is, do we have the skills to actually do what we want to do? That's why we have a time mastery workshop. Do we need to read some time management books and learn some other techniques to actually help us to achieve this? We talked about beliefs. Do we have this belief that being busy and working hard, working 10 hours a day is actually what success looks like? Okay, so how skills is quite easy to change. I can train you, read a book. Beliefs are much harder to change on somebody.
Mm.
And if their beliefs are core values, that's really tough to change.
Yeah.
And ultimately you get down to somebody's identity, what they say to themselves about themselves when they're by themselves.
Mm.
So does somebody think, oh, I'm always busy, I'm just one of those busy people, my life is always in chaos?
Mm.
And they have this identity. And this is what that business owner that I took out of the business, his identity was a business owner.
Mm.
His identity was, I work 40 hours, I have to be there. That was his identity. As a guy that had worked for 20 years and never had a week's holiday, my identity is I have to be here. No, you don't. Actually, the more you're not here, the better your team like it. They love it when you're not here.
Yeah.
Because they can do it their way. They can bring their own mark into the business. Okay. Often we've got to get out of the way of our team to allow them to do it their way. Yes, they'll make mistakes. But that's how you learn. If your kid falls down, you don't sit your kid and go, do you know what? I think you're going to be one of life's crawlers. Just stay crawling.
Yeah.
You encourage them. You help them to overcome their challenges. And we have a system called disc profiling. Okay, so disc profiling is a way to actually profile somebody's behavior and to see what type of what type of person they are. And we have outgoing people, reserved people, task focused people. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, because you want to get off early, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this. I do profiles. They're around about 50 quid each. They're a brilliant tool. Okay. And it basically identifies, D's are demanding, driving people, I's are influencers, S's are supporters, C's are cautious, calculating people. And each type, I'll just briefly go through here, have a way of dealing with time management.
Yeah.
These are pretty good at time management. They're good at delegating. They just get on and do things. Okay. But what happens is they piss people off. They dump work on other people. They don't really see what impact it has on other people.
Yeah.
I's tend to flit around. They're the worst at the magpie syndrome. They like talking to people. So you can tell an I because they're never at their desk.
Yeah.
They're always over there talking to another I or an S and interrupting them. S's are steady people. Okay, so they will listen. They will get dumped on by the D. The I will talk to them, and they'll be the ones staying there till 10 o'clock at night because they don't like letting people down. But they'll keep going until you give them one extra bit of work, and then they'll blow their stack.
Yeah.
You go, oh, it was only one piece of work. It wasn't that. It was the 5 years of just dumping work on their table. And then you've got your C's, who are your conscientious, cautious, calculating, compliant people. So these are very logical, analytical people. So you'll have a lot of these within the accountancy world. So they like structure. They want to know, what have I got? They don't like days where different things happen, interruptions. They want to get one thing done and see it right the way through to the end. So each one of those deals with stress, deals with time management in a different way. So if we understand who we are and what we need to do, then it really does help. So
I can kind of picture the people in our team in our office who are the different,
Exactly. I mean, it's such a good tool, and if you talk about it, it basically depersonalizes things.
Yeah.
Because you can just say, look, you're being a high D,
Yeah.
Get off your soapbox. You don't need to be shouty and demanding.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, so it's a really good tool to really understand yourself, understand your team, and also we can look at it where we can plot the whole team on one graph and see where your strengths and weaknesses are. So I'll send you a copy that you can show to Nick, and you can have a look at that and say I do a disc, a complete session just on disc, which is really good. And it's good for team engagement as well.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
So that's really about our beliefs. What do we need to believe in? So then we've got to start thinking, right, what can we do? So some real clear time management tools that we can use. So the first thing we want to be able to do is actually think about where our time goes. And this comes from a guy called Stephen Covey, who wrote the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a really good one to read for anybody in leadership management. And he broke it down into his sort of time quadrant and said, the stuff that you do that's not important and not urgent. So how do I know if something's urgent or not?
Well, I suppose if there's a deadline set to it, it's urgent.
Yeah.
If it's not, then not.
Generally there's a consequence of not doing it.
Yeah.
The VAT return has to be done by the 7th of the month after. Otherwise there's a fine.
Yeah.
There's a consequence. So if I do that on the 7th, then it's urgent. If I did it on the 10th of the previous month, it's not urgent.
Yeah.
Okay. How do I know if something's important or not?
That's a bit harder, I guess, because it depends on the person that you're talking to. Something to me might be trivial. To them, it's the most important thing in the world. So I guess it's on client belief of whether it's important or not.
It's about beliefs
as well.
But what did we say when we did be, do, have? What was the most important?
Well, I don't know. Have
the goal.
Yeah.
So something's important if it's helping you achieve your goal.
Yeah.
If you don't have goals, you can't decide what's important or not. Everything is important to everything else.
Yeah.
If I don't have clarity what's important to me, and you come and ask me to do something, well, that has equal importance to everything else I'll do, so I'll have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
So we come back to that ability to say no is the fact that you're saying, no, your goal that you're asking me to do is not as important as the goal I've already set myself.
Yeah.
Not personal. This is what I have to achieve for me to have this week as a success. And what you're asking me to doesn't fit into that.
Yeah.
Be it client, be it team member, be it boss. Now, if I'm not aware what your goal is, then I won't understand that. If you can't explain it to me, well, Mike, this is my goal. Actually, yeah, I can see that's your goal, but actually, look at the bigger picture. This goal is far more important. Okay, fine. Then you've got to accept that I won't achieve my goal because I'm helping you achieve your goal.
Yeah. So if for example, someone said my goal is to finish at 3 o'clock today, but the other person's goal was this needs to be out the door today, otherwise the client's going to leave us. So unfortunately, that trumps that kind of thing.
It can do, or you can say, look, there might be a compromise somewhere.
Yeah, makes sense.
But don't give it to me at 3 because I'm going at 3. If you'd given it to me yesterday, I could have done it.
Yeah.
So again, communication is so important with this. It's the oil in the machine. So what's not important but urgent? So it's not important, it's not helping me achieve my goals, but it is urgent. It's just a delusion because I'm helping other people achieve their goals. Because if it's not important to me, it's important to them. So I'm deluding myself of being busy when actually I'm doing stuff that isn't helping me achieve my goals. And that's why you've got to understand what your goals are in the context of the bigger company's goals as well. Then we've got our urgent and important. So this is demand. This has to be done now. It's important, because it's getting to our goals, and there's a consequence of not doing it. But the reason that most things end up in here is because we didn't do them when they weren't urgent. Go back to the VAT return. If we'd done the VAT return on the 10th of the month, it wouldn't have been urgent. If we leave it until the 7th of the next month, it suddenly becomes urgent. So we end up doing firefighting, because we're doing too much of this and not enough of this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So this is why planning is so important to work this out. So we've got to resist all of those distractions. We've got to reject and explain. We've got to be able to say no to those people that want a piece of our time. We've got to get the demand down to a minimum. Find out why we're in demand all the time. Put the fires out and make sure they don't restart. And then plan in the not urgent stuff. And we call these rocks. We've got to get the rocks in place. Okay, so you remember there's an analogy of a jar of and we've got a load of rocks, gravel, and sand. Which one of those rocks, gravel, sand do we need to get into the jar first?
The rocks.
Okay, so that's this bit here, the important but not urgent stuff. The gravel is the urgent but not important, and the sand is everything else. If you do all this stuff, there's never going to be enough time to do this stuff. And that's why we feel we don't move ahead. So to control our resource, the first thing we've got to do is review it. Okay. So even if you're not a billing time for hours, I still think you should do a timesheet. I keep track of my time through my calendar. Everything goes in my calendar. So I know on a daily, weekly basis where my time is gone. I have complete awareness of am I being busy? Am I working on the business? Am I working in the business? Okay. So everybody should have some form of time review. Then we have to prioritize what's important, what's not important. Okay. And then we need to actually get some structure in place to organize it. So you've got to understand what hats you're wearing, and to keep track of your time, is a time log. I mean, I don't have to tell you about this because that's what your business is or has been about. There are people out there that have never done a timesheet in your life, and I'll get them to do this. What are the key times? Now, it might just be, when are you doing sales and marketing? When are you doing finance? When are you doing teamwork? I'm not fussed about the 15 minutes. That's not the important bit. The important bit is awareness of where your time is going, and is it going on important, not urgent stuff, or are you firefighting? Once you've got that, we can break it down into a skill fun matrix where we're sort of looking at what you enjoy doing, what you don't enjoy doing, and what we need to delegate out. Okay. I haven't got a lot of time to sort of go into detail around that, but it's a good little tool that anything down here, in low skill, low fun, get rid of it. If you don't enjoy doing it, it doesn't need your skill, create a system for it, pass it on to somebody else. You should be up in this box here, high skill, high fun. Okay, a little bit of low fun, so high fun, low skill, but no more than 10%. And then, how do you feel your day? That was the rocks, gravel, and sand. We've got to get the rocks into our diary first, and this is when I use a default diary. Okay, so it's basically like a school timetable. Do you remember back at school? What was always first thing on a Monday morning? What lesson?
Usually be like when you had your, what are they called? Like a tutor session where you basically go through and plan everything.
After the plan. So what would your first lesson?
I see. I think ours was maths. We had the first one. Yeah.
What's the most important thing to learn? Maths and English. So what did they put first thing on a Monday morning when you should be most attentive? Maths and English. What was always Wednesday afternoon?
I like PE or something.
Break the week up with something enjoyable. What was always Friday afternoon?
Well, that would mean, I don't know, like drama or something, or music, whatever.
Okay, so it worked then, so it needs to work now. When you're most attentive, great, do the hardest thing, the most important thing. When do your energy levels drop a bit? Great, put something a little bit softer and easier in there. If you're a people person, put in time to actually go and talk to people. If you've got that sort of job that you hate doing, do it first thing. Eat that frog, get it done early. And there's another little story. This is Eric Amundsen, who was the first man to the South Pole. And Scott of the Antarctic had all these ideas, but his whole team perished. Amundsen came up with this concept of a 20-mile march. every day I do 20 miles, whether weather's good, whether the weather's bad, 20 miles. Scott was, when the weather's good, I do 60 miles. When the weather's bad, we don't come out of our tent.
Right.
So it's much better to put in a little and often, be consistent, create a habit over something than it is to do a lot and then not do any.
Yeah.
To go back to me writing the book, it was a case of I had to write, a chapter every week.
Yeah.
Every week. That was my goal. Not 2 chapters when I felt like it and no chapters when I didn't feel like it. It was a little bit every day, it feels a bit monotonous, but that's how that's how we work best. When we get into the zone, we get into a routine to achieve things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, if you do have the frogs to eat, the things that you really hate, then get them done. Don't leave them on the to-do list, because you'll feel so much, everything else after that, you'll feel so much better about.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I rushed a little bit there because I was conscious of getting you away by 15:15, and you can't be late on a time management workshop. So any final questions from you? And what was, I suppose, the biggest, we call them blinding flash of the obvious, that sort of thing that you think, that's what I need to do?
No, I think the timesheets is an interesting thing, because it's been a real contention in our business for a while, really, where it was kind of, I feel like, because it was looked at, as we were talking about earlier, because it was looked at and put across to people in a certain way, it was almost seen as the enemy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas if we can try and put it across to them and say to them, look, your time is valuable, like, make it as valuable as possible, if you know what I mean, to yourselves, I think that would definitely have been taken differently and better. So I think that's definitely something that's really good. I liked the disc thing as well. I thought that was really interesting. I'll definitely have a chat with Nick about
I'll get you a copy of just a blank report to have a look at. And
cool.
I think that's a great thing to do for the whole team, and we can do a Zoom call around that as well. So
it's just kind of like good strengths and weaknesses and seeing where people are at, which is
it creates that awareness that, look, everyone's different. The way communication is a great team thing for communication, but time management, look, the way I work on time management is going to be different to you because of my belief, my behavior, my belief system. So
no, so those two are definitely things which I'll kind of take away from this, which is great.
Fab. Cool. Well, I'll put that recording together. Hope Nick gets to enjoy it and everyone else that's enjoyed it. We do run these every 3 months, so you can get the recording on YouTube, or you can come back and participate as you've done, Ben. So thank you very much for that. And we'll see you at the next one.
Great. Thank you very much. Cheers, Kevin.